Hello everyone. In this video we are going to talk about MLA in-text citation, talking about the parenthetical citation. So here on Cobra, I'm under the Content tab in the Paper 1 folder. We are going to go into the Writing the Paper folder. And in this folder we've got a little subfolder, and this is Directions for MLA in-text parenthetical citations and the Works Cited page. So we're going to go into that. So here are the instructions for how to do your works cited page assignment, the formatting guidelines for it, the document. Here is the example that I created. There'll be a link right here in between for the video where I go over this document. And in that video I created an example citation for one of our articles. So it's here in a Word document if you want to go look at it and use it if you decide to use that article in your paper. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over this website here, MLA in-text citation, the basics. Now this video here is by the same people who created this website, and it goes over it kind of quickly, so I wanted to make this video where we go over it. So this is from Purdue, and in the Writing Lab section on Cobra, so remember this when I told you guys to push pin it. On here they have a link to the Purdue website as well. It's a very useful website. Over here on the left you can see how much they've created for the MLA citation. So it's a good resource to use. Alright, so basically when we talk about in-text citation, we're talking about parenthetical citations, and that's parentheses. So if you've ever had to use the keyboard to create a smiley face, that's the smile on the smiley face. And so this method involves providing relevant source information in parentheses whenever a sentence uses a quotation or paraphrase from a source. So usually the simplest way to do this is to put all of the source information in parentheses at the end of a sentence. So just like this, and then the period always goes after the parentheses. But there are some instances where we might put some of that information somewhere else in the text, or might not have to do it at all. Okay, so it just depends on how you end up writing your paper. So some general guidelines: think about the source information required for the citation. It depends upon the medium. Is it print, web, DVD? And then upon how that entry looks on the works cited page. And then any source information that you provide in the text must have the citation for it on the works cited page, and vice versa. So if you've listed a citation on the works cited page for a source, you better have used it within your text. Alright, so there's a lot of different examples for different types of sources on this page. We'll go through a couple just so you can understand the reasoning behind what they do. So here is a citation on a works cited page, and it's for a book by William Wordsworth. Okay? So here's one way that we could write the in-text citation. So Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. Okay? So here they had a quote, and so notice the quotation marks end at the end of the quote before the parenthetical citation. Now their parenthetical citation says 263. That would be the page number where it's found. But there's no other information here in the parentheses to tell us what source. So if we went to the works cited page, how would we know which citation to go to find it? We know it because of the signal phrase that is in that sentence. So they use the author of that book, the name, within the sentence itself. Okay, so we know that it's from Wordsworth on page 263. And so we go to our works cited page, find the citation with Wordsworth, and that's where we would look for that quote. So maybe we decide we don't want to put the author's name in the sentence. So here's an example of that. Romantic poetry is characterized by the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. So here we've included Wordsworth and the page number in the parentheses. So we would know to go to this citation. Alright? So again, it's about what signal phrases you use in that sentence determines what, if anything, gets put into the parenthetical citation. So here's another example of that. So human beings have been described by Kenneth Burke as symbol-using animals. Again, they've put the author's name. If the author's name is the same one at the beginning of that citation, of that source on the Works Cited page, then all you need in the parenthetical citation is the page number if you have one. But if you don't use that author's name in the sentence, Burke and then 3. So the author and then the page number gets put in the parenthetical citation. So here's information if you have a corporate author, print sources with no known author. So here would be the citation for on the Works Cited page. It starts with the title of the article. Okay, so they don't use the title of the article. If they use the title of the article within this paragraph, we wouldn't have to use the citation. But since they didn't, we're going to put an abbreviated form of the title in that parenthetical citation. And because this is the title of the article in quotes, we're going to keep those quotes around it in the parenthetical citation as well. Okay. Here's information for classic and literary works, for anthologies. If you have two authors with the same last name, so you're going to include the first initial of their names. So this could be Roger Miller, we're going to say R. Miller, Amy Miller, this is A. Miller. Okay. Work by multiple authors. So this is the citation on the Works Cited page. We've got David Best and Sharon Marcus as authors. So you can do your signal phrase and say Best and Marcus argue, blah, 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 and then put the page number, if there is one, in parentheses. Or if you don't want to include the author's name and you just say the authors, you'll put Best and Marcus 9 in the parentheses. And the same if you have more than one author, you'll include the et al. Let's see. So if you have two articles or two books by the same author, so here they've included the author's name within the sentence, and then in the parentheses they have put which article title and the page number it can be found on. And this would be for a print source with pages, with page numbers. And so here, same author, but it's a different article, so they're using the different article title in quotes with a page number. And then for book, the title of the book gets italicized, okay, and they've included the author's name. All right. Multi-volume works, there's the Bible, plays. So now we're getting into the non-print and sources from the internet. So some things to think about here. You want to include in the text the first item that appears in the Works Cited entry that corresponds to the citation. So that could be the author's name, article name, website name, film name. Do not provide paragraph numbers or page numbers, especially when based on the web browser's print view. You don't want to include like a full URL within your text, but if it has a domain name like CNN.com, Forbes.com, that's how you would write it instead. So here's an example of a couple. So here we have, let's see, yeah, for the electronic sources. So here we have a couple of different ones. This is the citation for our first one. It's an article by Rumsey Taylor. Okay, but here's the thing. This author, we're using two sources from the same author. Okay, so in the sentence they have one online film critic stated that Fitzgeraldo has become notorious for its near failure and many obstacles. So we didn't put the author's name in there, so we need to put that. So there's Taylor, we put a comma, and because there is more than one source by this author, so there would be two Taylor citations on the website or the Works Cited page, we're going to include the title of the article in quotes in that citation as well. So we know that it's this author and it's this article, not the other article by that same author. Now if we look at this other one, it's a Purdue OWL. The Purdue OWL is accessed by millions of users every year. Its MLA formatting and style guide is one of the most popular resources. Okay, so this is the Works Cited for it. Now here's the thing, it doesn't have an author, it starts with its title. The title we included in that sentence as a signal phrase, so we don't need any kind of parenthetical citation for it. Okay. Multiple citations, so if you have a sentence with two sources, you're going to put the first source, semicolon, space, the second source. Okay. Again, it depends on what signal phrases you put in there. Did you put the title of the article, title of the book, author's name within that sentence? Okay. And then obviously when to not use a citation, you know, common knowledge things like we know that George Washington was the first president. We know that. those are obvious things we don't need to look up and reference. Okay, so that's a little way of explaining in-text citation. Please ask me any questions as you go through and work on your rough draft, because it's not an easy, straightforward thing. It's a technical thing, and I know you'll have questions, and that's fine. If you want to send me a paragraph and say, hey, this is what I've got for this, this is my works cited page, how do I do the in-text citation, and that'll be fine. I'll give you feedback on it. So the last thing in the writing the paper folder is checklist, okay? And this is a checklist for your rough draft, okay? And it goes through everything that you need to make sure that you have on your rough draft before submitting it. So information about the title page, the paper, the general requirements, your introduction, your body paragraphs, counter argument, conclusion, proofreading, and works cited. One thing I don't think I've done yet is when I look at the paper count, the word count for your paper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all the section that your paragraphs take up, so your paper, and then down here it tells me how many words it is. Okay, so that's how I will determine that you have met the requirement, your word count requirement for the paper. So remember, this first paper needs 1,000 words. Please don't leave it to right at 1,000. Give yourself a few more words just to make sure that everything comes out okay with it. All right. So there's been a lot of videos, a lot of documents to look at and read for this paper. So please let me know how you're doing. If you need feedback, if you're having problems, you're confused about stuff, I am here to help you. And as I said before, you can pace yourself and go as fast as you want through all of this. Turn it in as soon as you get something done and work on the next thing. And then as soon as I get all the videos made for paper number 2, I will make that accessible to you as well. But again, always go back to the guidelines page or the calendar up on Cobra. It has all of the due dates for everything that is needed and when they have to be in. All right. I hope you all are having a good start to the beginning of your semester, and I will talk to you later.